Hello everyone. Welcome back. Today, we've got some crucial news you don't want to miss. Let's dive right into the top financial headlines and break down what's happening. No doubt about it, today's Federal Reserve decision on interest rates was the biggest event on the global financial stage. As expected by Wall Street, the Fed decided to cut rates by another 25 basis points, bringing the federal funds rate to a range of 4.25% to 4.5%. Now, for most American businesses and individuals, this benchmark rate doesn't directly translate to the loans they get. For instance, prime business loan rates still have to account for bank spreads, meaning businesses are looking at rates over 7.5%. And if you're eyeing a 30-year mortgage, you're likely still seeing around 7%, which is undeniably high. Fed Chair Jerome Powell gave a statement explaining today's decision, but Wall Street was more interested in the Fed's outlook, especially heading into next year. Of course, as we discussed before, Powell wasn't about to lay out a crystal-clear roadmap. Starting January 20th, he'll be dealing with a new administration under Trump and a whole new set of economic policies. Reporters, naturally, threw a lot of open-ended questions at Powell about how the Fed plans to navigate Trump's government and policy agenda. But here's the thing, Powell's answers didn't do much to clarify the uncertainty hanging over the markets. I've got two key takeaways from today's decision and Powell's remarks that I want to share. 1. Wall Street's unease runs deep. Before today's rate cut, the Dow had fallen for 9 straight trading days. That's the longest losing streak for the index in half a century. Pretty wild when you think about it. After Trump's election win, the markets rallied for nearly a month, but they've been sluggish ever since. So what's driving this persistent negativity? And more importantly, can today's 25 basis point rate cut really fix it? Powell's comments didn't address this, nor did they ease the underlying market concerns. Frankly, no one seems to agree on what's causing this unease. Different investment banks have their own theories, but there's no consensus. Here's a telling stat, though, 93% of Wall Street traders predicted the Fed would cut rates today, but only 63% think it was the right move. That gap speaks volumes about the current sentiment. Traders expected the cut, but aren't convinced it'll solve the deeper issues. No wonder Wall Street isn't celebrating, it's still grappling with big questions like, what's going to drive the stock market forward now? Without a clear driver, the market remains stuck in this nervous limbo. 2. A lack of clear guidance. Powell didn't offer much in the way of forward-looking guidance, and the Fed's dot plot didn't provide any clarity either. In the past, those dots helped signal whether committee members were leaning toward more cuts, staying put, or adopting a wait-and-see approach. This time, though, the dots were as unclear as Powell's remarks. Even top Fed watchers like Nick Timiraos have pointed out that nobody, Powell included, really knows what's coming next. The biggest wildcard is Trump's new economic agenda and how smoothly it gets through Congress. That uncertainty overshadows everything else. For now, markets will need time to digest today's decision and Powell's comments. Friday's core inflation data could also play a big role in shaping investor sentiment and giving the Fed and the market a better sense of direction. At the end of the day, navigating these markets isn't easy. As an investor, you're often stuck in situations where there's no obvious answer, left waiting for time to reveal what's next. The second major news story I want to share today comes from Bloomberg, which published an exclusive report that adds significant clarity to the situation in Syria we discussed yesterday. If you recall, we covered a Wall Street Journal piece explaining why Israel has been relentlessly bombing Syria and why Trump accused Turkey of backing the Sam Liberation Organization to overthrow Assad. Bloomberg's report gets straight to the point, quoting Israel's deputy foreign minister in no uncertain terms about their stance on Syria. The headline reads, "Wary Israel are not fooled by new Syria leaders," minister says, with a subhead that emphasizes, deputy foreign minister tells Bloomberg Israel isn't convinced. Israel's military has advanced into Syria to shore up security. This really drives home what's been speculated for weeks. Israel has laid its cards on the table. Deputy Foreign Minister Hashkal told Bloomberg that the new Syrian leadership is nothing more than wolves in sheep's clothing. According to him, they're trying to convince the world they've shed their radical Islamist identity, but Israel isn't falling for it. In the interview, Hashkal said, "We are not fooled by the numerous interviews and overtures from these rebel groups. At their core, they are terrorist organizations. He went on to say that Israel's military is prepared to push further into the Syrian buffer zone. He also pointed out that the Sam Liberation Organization is officially recognized as a terrorist group by the US and other nations. Hashkal made a striking comment during the interview: "We won't make the same mistake twice." He referred to Israel's earlier decision to believe Hamas might abandon terrorism and even collaborate with them, only to suffer subsequent attacks. "Now, I don't know about you, but I found this report a bit shocking. The international community has mostly welcomed the Sam Liberation Organization's efforts to oust Assad. The US has even started engaging with them directly. Their leaders have been portrayed in the media as reformers, like they've suddenly transformed from militants to statesmen. But here's the kicker: no one really knows what this group's political ideology is or where they stand on key geopolitical conflicts. That uncertainty is unsettling. Yesterday, I came across a viral video of the Sam Liberation leader mingling with locals in Damascus. He was taking photos with the public in what many media outlets spun as a positive PR move. But I noticed something strange: when women posed for photos with him, they adjusted their scarves to fully cover their hair. During conversations, their scarves were casually draped around their necks, but for photos, the hair was completely covered. Now, is that a cultural courtesy or a directive from the leader himself? It's hard to say. But it's details like these that raise questions about the group's true nature. Israel clearly isn't buying the facade. They've outright dismissed the Sam Liberation Organization, and that's something worth paying close attention to. If Assad falls, there's a real possibility the Sam Liberation Group could step in, and we need to ask ourselves, how long will their wolf in sheep's clothing act hold up? Israel's hardline stance also makes you wonder how the Trump administration will approach this group in the future. Bloomberg's report really shifts the way we should be looking at the situation in Syria. It's a reminder that this conflict, and the players involved, are far more complex than they might appear. The third major news story I want to share today has been making headlines across global financial media. Let's look at Bloomberg's coverage, titled "Honda Explores Nissan Rescue with Foxconn Also in Hunt for Stake." Nissan shares soar 20%. This marks Nissan's biggest stock surge in 50 years. Since last night, there's been a steady flow of explosive updates from Japan. Reports reveal that Nissan and Honda are in talks about a potential merger. If these two major Japanese automakers successfully combine, they would form the world's third largest car manufacturer. But that's not all. Today's latest updates suggest that Mitsubishi Motors is also interested in joining the merger. Essentially, Mitsubishi could become part of a newly merged Nissan-Honda powerhouse. Investors have clearly taken notice. While Nissan's stock jumped 20%, Mitsubishi Motors shares also surged by the same percentage in Japan's stock market today. This reaction reflects the market's confidence in the likelihood of the merger being successful. Adding another twist, Japanese media also reported that Taiwan's Foxconn, led by Terry Gou, is showing interest in acquiring a stake in Nissan. And here's where it gets even more dramatic: Taiwanese media have hinted that Foxconn might even attempt a full buyout of Nissan. The company reportedly sees this as a strategic move to secure a foothold in the electric vehicle (EV) market. Right now, it's impossible to predict how this will play out, but this marks the beginning of a new wave of global corporate mergers. As I've shared before, the pandemic caused years of stagnation in large-scale mergers and acquisitions (M&A). Now, we seem to be on the brink of a new M&A boom. Many analysts are already calling 2025 the year of mergers, and Japan's three automakers, Nissan, Honda, and Mitsubishi, are firing the opening shot. The fourth story today is both amusing and baffling. It comes from Bloomberg, reporting on how India's gold imports hit a record high, only to be debunked as a miscalculation. India is known for its surprises, sometimes positive, sometimes head-scratchingly absurd. Last month, the Indian government proudly announced that November's gold imports had hit an all-time high. This record-breaking gold rush drove the Indian rupee to historic lows, as gold buying surged due to economic uncertainty. Essentially, people were hedging against the rupee, signaling a lack of confidence in the currency. But here's the kicker: today, Indian media revealed that the November gold import figures were massively overestimated, by 50 tons. The government had overstated the import total by a staggering 30%. In reality, the actual imports were far lower. So, what caused this glaring error? Officials explained that they mistakenly combined two separate sets of data. They counted gold stored by custodians in free trade zone warehouses as imports, then added reports from domestic banks purchasing that same gold. This mix-up inflated the numbers significantly. While this might sound like a harmless clerical mistake, the consequences were serious. The market had reacted to the inflated data, causing the rupee to depreciate sharply. Many Indians suffered financial losses because of this misstep. Now, serious questions are being raised: who will be held accountable for this blunder? Will similar errors happen again? And perhaps most critically, can people still trust the government's official statistics? This fiasco has left a mess, highlighting how even countries with lofty reputations for governance can occasionally trip up in ways that are both frustrating and laughable. Finally, let's focus on the power struggle that sidelined Pompeo inside Trump's camp. A recent Wall Street Journal report reveals how Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump Jr. orchestrated a campaign to block Mike Pompeo from joining the Trump administration, offering a rare glimpse into the inner workings of Trump's camp. The push to sideline Pompeo. In the lead-up to the 2024 election, Carlson, the former Fox News host with significant influence among conservatives, made a direct appeal to Trump, urging him to reject Pompeo for a cabinet role. While Pompeo, who served as Secretary of State during Trump's first term, was considered a strong contender for Secretary of Defense, Carlson labeled him a war hawk and a risky choice. According to insiders, Carlson criticized Pompeo for allegedly plotting to assassinate WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange while serving as Secretary of State, a claim he later reiterated in an interview without providing evidence. Pompeo dismissed these accusations, asserting that all his actions as CIA director were lawful and above board. Allegations of disloyalty. Carlson and Donald Trump Jr. also argued that Pompeo had distanced himself from Trump's claims of election fraud in 2020 and denounced the January 6 Capitol riots. These moves, they claimed, demonstrated Pompeo's lack of loyalty to Trump's agenda. Their efforts paid off. Alongside other critics of Trump's America First policies, including Nikki Haley and Robert O'Brien, Pompeo was excluded from key roles in the administration. Trump's inner circle feared these figures would steer his policies toward a more traditional Republican approach, including support for international conflicts such as the war in Ukraine. Trump Jr.'s role in vetting. As co-chair of Trump's transition team, Donald Trump Jr. took a hands-on approach, reportedly stating his primary goal was to keep bad actors out of the administration. He expressed skepticism toward traditional Republicans, including Marco Rubio, who was briefly considered for Secretary of State. While Rubio ultimately avoided the same fate as Pompeo, sources revealed that his choices for deputies and advisors were heavily scrutinized by Trump's camp. A revealing exchange with Rubio. In a recent interview, Rubio was asked if he would maintain a tough stance on China if he became Secretary of State. His response was telling: "The president sets foreign policy. As Secretary of State, my job is to execute the president's decisions." This seemingly cautious answer underscored the challenges traditional conservatives face in aligning with Trump's unorthodox approach. A divided inner circle. The Wall Street Journal's investigation highlights the complexity of Trump's inner circle, marked by ideological divides and fierce power struggles. Figures like Carlson and Trump Jr. wield considerable influence, shaping not only Trump's policies but also the composition of his team. As Trump's 2024 administration takes shape, the tensions within his camp offer a preview of the challenges ahead for both his allies and his adversaries. That's all for today. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more updates. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.